Right. This podcast can be called Gagan and Gagan.
Gagan, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm originally Indian. My parents are from India. And I was actually born and raised in Hong Kong. So I've literally been here my whole life, actually.
Yeah, I mean, you've been here in whole life.
Mhm.
I think I met you how many years ago?
I think 6 years ago.
5, 6 years ago.
Mhm.
And that time you were not planning to do that you're doing now, or you had this plan. I mean, professionally, you're a teacher,
Yes.
and you teach a bigger student
Mhm.
like me.
Not that old yet. Yeah, so I am very fortunately a university lecturer at HKU. And yes, interestingly enough, I've always wanted to be a teacher since high school, since secondary school.
Oh, really? You always wanted to be a teacher?
Yes, that was always the plan from the very beginning. The reason I guess why we met was because I started working in F&B while I was doing my studies, my undergraduate studies, to support my studies and pay for my fees myself. And after I finished my undergraduate, I took a sort of a gap year to save up for my master's degree. And that's how I ended up in Zuma, and that's how we met.
Man, you're the one of the survival then.
Am I?
Because you know how our community work, Asian community, we said, okay, I want to do, I want to support my study, or I want to support my family,
Mhm.
and that's how you get in a work environment, and you stuck. Yeah, we can talk.
Yeah. No, I understand where you're coming from. And sometimes I feel like that is because the limited experience or limited exposure the previous generation has. Because a lot of our parents are immigrants. You know, the only way they know how to live and survive is to work really, really hard. You know, once you find a job, you stick with that job and you provide stability for your family. And I guess my parents, in a way, were more or less the same. But because I suppose when I was younger, I was more of a little nerdy kid. You know, I was really into studies, I was really good at it. So I felt like I pushed through. You know, I pushed hard. You know, I took 2 gap years. You know, one was after my secondary school because in my first attempt, I didn't manage to get into university. You know, and that's when you start hearing the chatter in the family like, oh, maybe he should start working now. You know, and a lot of people do start doing that. But I kind of pushed through because I was really passionate about my studies. And I was like, if finances are an issue, I would support myself. So what I did was I was going to school during the morning till afternoon, and from afternoon till evening, I was working in F&B. And that's how I kind of pushed through and kind of broke that. I'm not sure if that would be appropriate to call it a glass ceiling, but kind of broke through, you know, what is expected of you when you're in an immigrant family.
But didn't you have to support your family?
No, I mean, my father was working, which was
So
more.
you don't have to, because a lot of time,
Mhm.
I think, sorry to coffee. The thing is, we said that, oh, I left my study because I want to support my family.
Mhm.
Most of the time, that's the real case. But
Yes.
sometimes it's not.
Even actually, yes. When that is the case, it is very limiting to you as an individual because circumstances don't allow you to kind of like maybe pursue your studies or pursue your passion and career that you want to. In my case, you know, I was fortunate enough that, you know, my father was supporting our family. But at the same time, I feel like, I think you can relate to this, there is this expectation when you're coming from an Asian family or an immigrant family that, especially if you're a son, that, you know, once you're done with your studies, you kind of start supporting the family as soon as possible. You know, kind of lend a hand to your father and help, you know, contribute to the family. So there is that pressure. So I guess I was a little bit selfish. I didn't cave into that pressure and kind of keep pursuing. And I did study, I feel like, for a long time. Because when I was doing my undergrad, when I was working in Zuma, when I was doing my postgrad, a lot of my friends, a lot of my peers from secondary schools they have already started their careers.
Yeah.
A lot of them were like secondary school teachers. They were earning really well, they had really good jobs, and I was still a student. But I feel like now that when I look back, it was actually worth it. Because once again, I feel like we limit ourselves by thinking very short term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is not. I get to learn pretty late because I realize once sometimes yes, at dinner sometimes it's not a choice that we want to make, but
Mhm.
it's the circumstances that we push through to the idea of early age working, and I think man in our community, especially when I said Asian, we start working since 18,
Yeah.
probably sometimes 17, and our parents or our society think that you start making from 18, by 30 you will make a lot of money, but it's not true. It's not true. It's not true because sometimes I look back my friends, very few,
Mhm.
my school time in Nepal. So probably they were still studying when I was working.
Mhm.
And they were still studying. They will not make any money, any.
Mhm.
But when they finish the studying, their growth goes faster.
Yeah. I mean, I was given this temptation actually. I'm not sure if I had mentioned this to you. So when I was working in Zuma,
Yeah.
and I was planning on leaving to do my master's because I've saved up enough. One of the deputy GM, I think, so he was going somewhere else, and he asked me if I would join him in his new place.
Oh, I think you told me that. That's
And-
why
Yeah.
you survived, man.
And yes, he offered me a very lucrative salary.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
during that time, he was saying like, oh, around 20K. Like as a student who just freshly graduated. Okay, 15K, not a lot of money. 20K was a lot of money. It was more than what my father was making. You know, so there was that back in, oh, 20K is a lot of money. I'm earning more than my father, so that's definitely good. I can support my family. Like I can just stay in F&B instead of,
Going back.
do my master's, But I don't know what came to my head. I fortunately said no to that. Because yes, I did another year of, master's, another year of studies. Start earning money a lot later than a lot of my peers. But the moment I start making money now, I am earning a lot more. I can say easily double to what I would have been earning if I stayed in F&B.
I think also the money is a thing,
Mhm.
but what you are doing is a good thing for our community or society. That I think I can proudly say that I know a person who have same name as me and who is actually teaching in HKU. Right, that's also the the money will follow sometime. Yeah, you become something,
Yeah.
but these are the things that we need to actually
Mhm.
get away from stereotype of our community that what we do work in this industry, we work in this industry.
Right.
That's the limitation that we do,
Mhm.
and more than that is actually it's not impossible,
Right.
but you need person to see, like to make example of, right? Like we know. I'm sure you have some friends and family who actually also be pretty proud of to see you going to HKU teaching these people, and you over there, it's just a door open for the younger generation
Mhm.
thing. So
I think you can almost compare this to investment, right?
yeah,
Like, if you're looking short term, yes, you're doing a job, you get paid monthly. So that's immediate, right? That's very immediate gratification. But, like education, I would say is almost like investment. In the short term, you see nothing. You're spending a lot of money, you're not getting much in return. But in the long run, it actually pays off. You get a better life, you get better social status, you get more stability. You're able to support your family better, and like you said, kind of set a good set a good example for the younger generation as well. In my family, I would say I was the first person to have finished, university degree from one of the official universities in Hong Kong, and actually finished a master's degree as well, and also the first to be a lecturer. So I feel like that does somehow inspire, because now that I look at my younger cousins,
Yeah.
once they see, all right, actually this is possible, their parents know this is possible. I would often get calls from uncles and aunties asking me for advice. Obviously the kids, the younger people, they work hard themselves. They put in the effort, but it opens up this possibility that, oh, actually I can also do this. It becomes a choice for them. So I would get calls from uncles and aunties asking for advice, like, oh, what should they do? How should they apply for university? Is it worth it? So I would kind of give these general advices, and yeah, kind of like you're kind of forming a new path for people like us, I would say.
But we're talking about advice.
Mhm.
So what sort of advice do you give it to them? Do you give them the reality, or you give them a little bit of like masala add into it? No, it's amazing. You have to send them this. This is so much fun, so easy. Or you just tell them it's a lot of work. Probably not gonna make any money. Probably not gonna be a good student. Like
Right.
sometimes it happens.
Mhm,
You go to
mhm.
you go to university.
Mhm.
The expectation from the parents maybe not gonna happen, right? Also, I think that I realize that we also need to change that. Okay, we want our kids to study,
Mhm.
but we don't want to get the pressure. Okay, you have to be that. You need to
Mhm.
be this.
No, I mean, in terms of advice, because again, I didn't have a lot of knowledge. Once again, I didn't have anyone around me who had been to universities,
Yeah.
who had been in this field. So it was more like figuring it out myself, or asking my friends who were already teaching for advice a little bit. But again, they were in slightly different fields. Their path towards their degrees and masters and education career was slightly different. But the advice I give to my friends and relatives and cousins were not very specific, actually. It didn't have to be, because if we think about it, they didn't really know anything about the university system, the education system, the opportunities that these degrees will provide them, the education will provide them. So my advice was always very basic about university applications. What kind of degrees or courses they can do. If they're interested in computer science, go ahead, do computer science. If they're interested in economics, go ahead, do economics. Because by that time, I know, regardless of what degree you have, it's going to be good for you.
Yeah.
Because it's not only about the degree, it's about when you are doing the degree, you meet a lot of different people from a lot of different walks of life. You experience a lot of things that you wouldn't experience in your day-to-day life. You meet people internationally, economists, professors, lecturers. You go on internships, you go on exchanges. It allows them those opportunities regardless of what degree they do. Even if they don't do well in their studies, they don't get a good GPA, actually that's completely fine. That's something I always tell my current students at the end of every semester. Because now degree is almost a minimum requirement.
You have to have it, right?
Because everyone has a degree. It doesn't give you an advantage, but not having a degree in a place like Hong Kong kind of puts you a little bit at a disadvantage, actually, in a lot of the fields. I ask my students, I tell them to guess, since I've graduated from a master's, I ask them to guess how many employers or institutions have asked me for my GPA, or asked me for my grades, or asked me for my transcripts. You want to take a guess?
None.
Zero. Literally zero. Because once the master's degree is on your CV, that is just a minimum requirement.
And they don't have to go into details about it, right? You have a degree, you have a degree.
After that, it's how you perform in the interviews. How you showcase your personality, your skill set, your competence. Are you able to do what you're being hired to do? It's not about the grades. Grades, you can have straight A's, but you might still not be able to apply that knowledge in real life. So I tell my students, don't focus so much purely on grades. Yes, grades are important, but what about your experience? What about networking? Pick up skills that you might need for the career you're planning for. So all these things do come into play a lot.
So to get a degree, I mean, if the people, whoever watching or listening to us,
Mhm.
what are the requirements? How they should pursue? Like, if you have some advice, like the basic thing, how do you apply? What kind of?
Well, the basic, it's almost more or less, a lot of it's done for you. It's what you need to do is perform really well in secondary school in the DSE exams now.
Secondary.
Yeah, like now, because when I was studying, we had 2 public exams, which was a lot harder. So we had the HKCE in Form 5, and then we had the A levels in Form 7 before we could enter the university. Now it's 6 years of secondary school, and they only have 1 public exam, which is the DSE exam.
Is it harder or easier?
I guess it depends. They're taking it 1 year earlier. And they
So
spend.
there is no HKS, there's no Form 5 now.
No, there's Form 5, Form 6, but no Form 7.
Oh.
Yeah, so only 1 public exam. So if they do really, really well in those exams, you know, chances are they'll probably get into the university of their choice. But I feel like this puts a lot of pressure on students. You know, I talk to a lot of my friends who are secondary school teachers. You know, students don't realize this is only one of the many different ways they can get into universities. They feel like, oh, if I do poorly in the public exams, I don't get into university, my life is over. That's actually not true. Like the first time I tried to apply universities, I failed. You know, but look at me now. You wouldn't say I am unsuccessful or I failed in life. I'm a university lecturer, right? So, like for example, especially these days, it's so much easier. Like they can apply for associate degrees. There's a lot of these community colleges run by universities. There's a lot of international universities. You know, a lot of students go to US, UK, Australia, Canada.
How they get this? Is it an internship? They kind of moving here and there, or how does it work? The scholarship and
I
think
sponsor. Well, there are scholarships you can apply for, but I think why they can get into universities overseas, but not in Hong Kong, because Hong Kong, technically, I think there are only 8 UGC-funded universities. So, but the number of students is very, very high. You know, you have students in Hong Kong, you have students in mainland China, you have international students all applying for universities in Hong Kong. Because Hong Kong has some of the best universities in Asia and even in the world. So it's extremely competitive. I'm not even sure if I'm right on the numbers, but I'm guessing like what, 20-30% of the students maybe successfully get into the universities each year. But if you look globally, there are so many universities. And getting into those universities, it's not as competitive compared to Hong Kong. So actually, if they don't successfully get into universities in Hong Kong, they can actually apply overseas. Yes, it could be a little more expensive because you have to think about accommodation, daily life, university fees. But I think if you can afford it, why not? There's so many options.
But probably they need also like people like us, like I'm from Nepal, let's say I want to send my kids to study overseas. I have a Nepalese passport. It's probably gonna another scenario, right? The visa and.
No, I think if you get accepted in the university, you get student visa. It's very straightforward. Once you get the acceptance, visa is not an issue. I think it's usually the finances that are limiting for a lot of people.
Yeah, they.
Because in Hong Kong, it's it's funded by the government. Yes, you still have to pay, but it's compared to what international students would pay, it's not that high. Like even if I go study overseas, I'm paying for international student prices, which sometimes are double compared to local student prices.
So Hong Kong, going to university is cheaper?
No, like if you're a local going to university anywhere is cheaper. So if I'm in Australia, I'm an Australian student, I can go there because I'm a local. I'm paying local student prices. But if I'm flying to Australia or UK, I'm paying international student prices. So I guess that's the difference. But I think that's very easily overcome. Like let's just say I'm from an immigrant family. I didn't do well in my exams, but I want to go to university. But my parents cannot afford to pay those, really high international student fees, my daily expenses for 3 years, 4 years. Take a gap year, work for 1 year, 2 years, save up money, and then go to university.
No, this is the thing. The gap is dangerous, man.
Is it?
Gap is dangerous.
Why do you think that is?
Because I have almost didn't see. I've seen a lot of students from different community, different nationality, studying and supporting their, they're supporting their own education and going back to university or studying
Mhm.
and doing pretty well. But our it's very hard. I see less. I've seen a very bright student who actually come out of for like let's say some break to
Mhm.
do the part time and stuff, and they just got stuck.
Mhm.
They-
Because of the temptation of
temptation,
the money,
the
stability.
fun,
Mhm.
like yeah, everything. And why do I need to get a? And there are some people who's telling me, I mean, still they're like, if I'm making the money right now, the reason I'm studying to make money, so I don't have to go to college,
Mhm. But
right?
again,
It's
Mhm.
have you met these kind of people like?
yeah.
Because I work in F&B, it happens mostly F&B people come. Younger generation, they come and they start, we're just here to part-time, I want to support my
Mhm.
education. But eventually, after 5 years, I still see them doing the same thing. I was like, what the fuck, man, what happened?
But I guess maybe at that point in life, what they want is different, or they're happy with what they
No,
have.
this is the thing. We didn't have a lot of, we don't have a lot of examples of
Mhm.
people. So once we get in, we're just in.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm telling you is why I still think that you did great, that you actually took a break,
Mhm.
save up money, and again going back. It's just like you go to like amazing place to stay and fun, but still realize, oh shit, if I go back,
Mhm.
there's a lot of hard work, but you still decide to go back and study and actually pursue your dream.
Right.
So it's not I mean, it's not impossible, but
Mhm.
it's very, very hard. I've seen a lot of people get kind of lost.
But then I guess I was fortunate in the sense that I knew what I wanted from the very beginning. Like I knew I wanted to be a teacher. And I knew to be a teacher, I need, the undergrad, I need the postgraduate degrees. I know I can't just get away with that. Now, don't get me wrong, I totally enjoyed my time in F&B.
Yeah, you almost got into it also, right? You
Yeah,
almost.
I think I worked in F&B for 4 years. Like for someone who was just working to support myself, that's a very long time.
Yeah.
It's almost enough to like build a career. Zuma, I was getting those promotions as well. That's tempting. It's fun, it's exciting, you're always on the move. The temptation is there, but once again, you need to think a little more long term. Now, that's difficult when there are no examples around you, when there's no precedent to that. So that's why I said, now that I look back at my cousins, the younger ones, who, their parents ask me about this, they are not rushing to push their kids into work. But when I was working in F&B and when I was studying, I also got a lot of criticism, right? I remember one of my cousins would say, hey, I don't have an undergraduate degree, look at me, I'm earning really good money.
Yeah.
Like this guy, he's just studying and he's earning nothing. So I don't blame him. It's more the lack of exposure, the lack of experience, the lack of examples to follow. So their imagination, in a sense, is very limited. It's about how much I make a month. It's not thinking about long term.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's very true. So you were born in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
You were born in Hong Kong, and you always here.
Mm-hmm.
You study in local schools.
Yeah.
How was the experience studying in local school?
I think a lot of people, when they see me, because, I don't look Chinese.
You speak Cantonese.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm a brown guy, per se, right? So they always think, for some reason, especially locals, like local Chinese people, they think I must have studied in international schools.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I'm doing well, maybe that's why I'm teaching. That's actually not true, I was studying in local schools, local primary, local secondary. We never had any tutorial classes. It's not something my parents would pay for, and I wouldn't say the experience was, particularly good or particularly bad, because the local schools that I went to were for they used to call us non-Chinese students.
NC.
Where the Chinese and non-Chinese students. So the schools that I went to were famously where all the non-Chinese students went.
So there was no. So in your primary, as we get back to, in your primary school, there's a class for like Cantonese class or Putonga class or like anything with related to Chinese class. They have to go exams and stuff.
Yes, interestingly enough, because it was, a school particularly catering to non-Chinese students as well,
Yeah.
we actually had the option to choose languages. So I think the first year or two, we did have Chinese classes. But beyond that, we could choose if we want to study Cantonese or Hindi or Urdu. So because it was easier, I don't know, was it me or my parents? I was very young at that time. I don't quite remember. We opted to study Hindi.
Yeah.
So I took up Hindi for 4 years. And then in secondary school, again, for some reason, we had the option to choose French or Chinese.
Yeah, second.
And for 5 years, I studied French. So I didn't study much Chinese or Cantonese in school.
But where did you pick up then? How do you learn to speak?
Well, I guess because you just grow up in that environment, right? It's almost like native speakers, like Nepalese, right? You're Nepalese. So you know Nepalese not because you went to Nepalese schools or your Nepalese classes, because everyone around you spoke Nepalese. So you had to know that language. So it was the same for me for Cantonese as well.
So everyone around you speak Cantonese from the school?
Yeah, like if I go to the market, I take the bus, I go shopping, whatever I do, there's Cantonese everywhere. And, kindergarten, primary school, initially they do teach you a little bit of Chinese. So that was enough to get you started. But I must say I can speak Cantonese, I can understand Cantonese at native proficiency, but I cannot read and write. My reading and writing, I would say, is kindergarten or primary level. And that's it.
And then, I don't know, back in the days, and now I just find out that because my nephew, he went to secondary school, so they have a band 1, band 2 kind of thing. They were still there back in the days?
Yeah, so you have like band 1, band 2, band 3 schools. So band 1s would be the best schools.
So, but again, I what do you think about this education system? I mean, we're not the one to question them. But so how can you decide by their primary level that this person can go to best school and this person is not good, is not going to best school, and the person who's a band 3, they don't even exist kind of thing, right? They're like just going to school for...
Well, I think that's the thing. A lot of people might not choose their schools based on band 1, band 2, band 3.
No, nowadays the kids are obsessed about, those kids who actually, like let's say someone is obsessed about, I want to be the best. I want to study. Some people know when they're small, so they will go to the school and they'll, I didn't get the admission in band 1.
Right.
And they get sad. And they know if they're not gonna band 1, band 2, they're like, mediocre, I'm doing a band 3. There are, man, nowadays students are very smart because how I know, my nephew, my niece, my daughter herself, they know.
Right.
They know the category. And they knew already, okay, I'm not gonna get a band in band 2, so.
I guess that might be more of a thing now because they're very knowledgeable about this.
Yeah.
Like back when we were in school, like I didn't know about band 1 and band 2. Like wherever our parents sent us, we just go there to study. Back in the day. But yeah, I guess how you don't really determine, it's not about determining who gets to study in band 1, band 2, right? It's how well you do in your results, how well you do in the interviews.
No, but that's the thing. How well, that means they will start counting your primary when you just started like knowing some of the people, some of the kids probably just getting to know, they're probably like normal thing, right? Normal thing like hanging out with the people. You have the friends, they're different friends, and now we start to push them a pressure on like, okay, you gotta fucking do the best, otherwise you're not gonna get into band 1, band 2. I mean, I just want to know, is my personal thought, and I think I want to. So, is this a good thing, or is there's a thing like or this is also in other countries? Like, how in other countries, how does it work? From primary to secondary, you have those kind of band 1 and band 2 stuff.
Okay, talking about globally first, I think this is a system that exists everywhere.
Okay.
Like, in places like Southeast Asia, in India, maybe even in Nepal, you have places like, the differentiation is all international schools and then public schools.
Yeah.
International schools are where everyone wants to go to, or English medium schools.
In Nepal, it's English
Yeah.
medium and a boarding school. That means like
Yes.
that you have
It's-
as much you pay more. That means a good school.
It's more elite in a way.
Yeah.
But then government schools, public schools, not that good. You know, even in places like states, you have Ivy League colleges. You know, the more elite, where the more elite, the stronger students go, where the richer students go. So I think this kind of system, you know, where you differentiate people into categories exists everywhere. Do I agree with it? No. I think at that age it's a lot of pressure to be putting on kids, and sometimes it's the parents who are putting the pressure on the kids, because I think in some ways parents can get very competitive as well.
No, but that is a secondary to primary, right? Secondary. No, sorry.
Primary
From
to
primary
secondary.
to secondary, and there's a competition for kindergarten
Yeah.
as well.
Even
Man,
to get into kindergartens.
kindergarten, you know, this kid doesn't know how to speak.
Mhm.
You know, I just know how to speak and how to talk to a human being, and now we deciding them. Oh, you have to go to this best kindergarten international school,
Right.
and you pay that much of money, and they this kindergarten. I was like, so I think my personal opinion is like people always say it's not money, but this is here. From the kindergarten, your life start from the money.
Right.
Like if you're studying in the best kindergarten,
Mm.
there is a chance that you're gonna go to best primary school.
Yeah.
And if you go to best primary school, there's already you open up the door to go to best secondary school, and with that money, you're buying for you a ticket to best university as well.
I mean, that's one. That's definitely one way to put.
And
put
poor
it.
people like us, our kids will go to fucking like, any school.
No, because I'm not sure do you know there are these groups where the kindergarten, the primary school, and the secondary school, they will belong to the same group. So if you get into that particular kindergarten, you can go to their primary school as well. If you get into that primary school, you can go to their secondary school as well. I know that is a thing, but I don't necessarily equate that to better opportunities, because even if you go to the best kindergartens and primary schools or secondary schools, if you are not putting in the effort, you're not focused on your studies.
But I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. If without your self-interest or self-motivation, there's less. But there's opportunity to
Yeah.
get more. You know what I mean?
I think it does put them in a very advantageous
position, right? Let's say someone doing very normal study, very normal, you know, like thing in school, very normal in sports, but he get more choices because of he have been studying in the elite. I don't know that you mentioned IB or whatever.
This is where I tend to have this conversation with my best friends a lot, and she always tells me this.
Also from the education, she's also
Yeah,
working.
so my friend is a secondary school teacher, and what she always says is, yes, we agree that you have to put in that hard work. It really depends on the kids, how driven you are, how passionate you are, how hardworking you are. But yes, the reason why students in these more elite, so-called elite schools have an advantage, I think, is because it affords them more cultural capital. It provides them with more cultural capital.
What is a cultural capital?
I think it's kind of similar to what you were talking about in terms of opportunities, right? If I'm going to, like a band 3 local, underfunded, understaffed school, there's so many things I can experience and do and see. Most of the people I would meet are probably from the same community. I'm doing very basic classes. But if I compare it to like maybe a band 1 international school or a very well-funded school, they might have more opportunities. Like I see some of these band 1 schools, they bring their students to different countries during summer breaks, like on camping trips. Like they're going to Denmark, they're going to UK. So as a kid, that really opens up your horizon.
Of course.
Like some of these students in the so-called band 3 schools, they might not even have left their district.
Yeah.
If I'm living in Tuen Mun, I just know Tuen Mun. I rarely go to other districts. But these kids can, have that opportunity to go to UK, go to Europe, go to different countries in Asia. The sports they can do, there's a lot more options. They can do golf, they can do tennis, they can do basketball, they can do football. The type of lessons that they have, the types of teachers that they can have, the type of people they will network with and interact with. All that really opens up your mind to the possibilities. Because this is, I think, something we've been talking about, right?
Yeah.
Where a lot of the immigrant families, they don't know about these opportunities because there's no example, right? It's the same with the kids. If they go to these so-called better schools, they are allowed access to more opportunities, and it really opens up their mind to all these different things. So it's definitely an advantage. It allows you to give yourself more options. I'm not just limited to, okay, I need to finish my studies, try to get into university. If I don't, start working. If I do, finish my degree and then start working. The more I experience, the more different kinds of people I meet, the more different places I go to. I see these different cultures, these different lifestyles, these different possibilities. I am allowing myself access to all these different things. I won't be just limited to that. I actually have a choice. So I think that is what maybe the so-called better schools or Band 1 schools can afford the students.
But Band 2, Band 3, what is the Band, how is it, Band 1 to Band 5? No.
I'm actually not that familiar. I know there's Band 1, Band 2, Band 3. I'm not sure how low it goes.
I know 1, 2, and 3 because my nephew, but he's in Band 2. And he was very, very sad that he didn't get in Band 1, and teacher have to convince him and tell him, like, look, there's not much different between 1 and 2.
Right.
But he was like, no, because this guy was so determined. He is the one picking the school by himself.
Oh, wow.
By himself, and going to interview by himself and teaching me how do I behave in front of teacher.
Right.
Because my sister and my brother-in-law, they're busy. We have to work. And I managed to have some time. And he teach me, okay, you have to put everything nicely, or that they will judge you from that. I was like, what the man, are you fucking? So I was like, well, we have to dress cool, we have to present well, and we go for a plan. And we went to like a couple of schools. They do a check, how do you put there? And I have no idea. Actually, I have no idea. I just go to school, they say, for admission, I say yes, and he's doing all the talking.
Right.
He's doing all the talking, 11, 12 years old. He's doing all the talking. I was like, yeah, we're doing it here. And I was like, he teaches me, okay, we have to do this, we have to do that. Okay, this school, we have to wait over there. I was like, man, you know everything. Why do we need to go? But then they told me, like, they need a parents, and you just pretend to be parent. I was like, okay.
No, but I think the biggest difference between this generation, like your nephew's generation, and us was information is so easily accessible to them. Internet, mobile phones, you can just Google it. They know everything. What the schools are looking for and everything.
They know everything. My daughter and my niece can talk about. If you just ask them election, they'll talk about election between American election. Automatically. I was like, do you even know? They know, we know the people. They know the people, but they don't know, right? But they know there's a thing happening because they follow a lot of American culture.
Yeah.
American culture is very, we talk about culture. I think American culture is the strongest culture. It's not a culture, by the way. It's just like stronger impact they have in a society, which is crazily amazing. The YouTube, the cartoon they watch, the way they speak, English, you will see that, okay, this is, like those kind of accent. They never went to America, but they had that type of, the English accent also can bring them right. This how much is influence in there. So they know everything was going on over there. They barely know what's going on in Hong Kong or in Nepal, probably.
Right.
So they know from YouTube, I say Google, so what to do, when to do, how to do, but they still make a mess on top of that. That is called, I think, I don't know, it's just like maybe, because I personally think they know better than us.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they know better than us. So what we can teach them is actually culture, I think. culture means like our culture, or
Right.
what we actually, how do you respect your elder, how do you actually talk to your elder, how do you behave to, these are the things only I think we can teach, because there is nothing about YouTube
Right.
in there, and there's no fun about it. The rest, they know everything.
I mean, yeah, like you said, because internet kind of provides them with everything, and even like if the student is in band 2, band 3, whatever, right? They don't have access to all these opportunities, but they have access to all this information and knowledge through the internet. They can learn. They can't go to UK. They can't go to Denmark. Fine, they can Google it. They can see what UK and Denmark is like. They can see what the schools and cultures they're like. They can kind of pick what is good from that, and like you said, okay, they probably know more than us, and we can't really teach them certain things anymore. They can teach us more than we can teach them. But I guess what we will have then is the experience, because we have been through all that already. We have been through the hardships, we have been through failure, we have been through the struggle. So I guess that is where they might be somewhat lacking, like the hands-on experience. They don't really have that yet. So that is, I guess, where we kind of supplement. And I feel like this is where our generation has to, really differentiate from the previous generation. Because our parents, for them, education was like, okay, send the kids to school, we're gonna work. They grow up, they start work, and they have better life.
Send those kids to school, sometimes is not only for to get a job, it's just like, because I think everyone's sent to school.
Yeah.
It's just like a things to follow, right? Yeah, it's just like things to follow.
But I feel like for us, because we know better, we have been through the education system and experienced all this in Hong Kong, we can't just do that, because we know now that schools won't really teach students or young people everything they need to know. I think this is all over the internet. If you access Instagram, Facebook, you get a lot of these quotes and things. The education system is very flawed in the sense that they don't really teach you a lot of the practical skills you need. For example, schools never teach you how to do your taxes, right? Schools never teach you about how to manage your finances. Schools never teach you about how to take care of yourself in terms of your mental health.
Yeah.
So these things we have experienced now. This is where we had to supplement it at home. Because I think people, again, confuse knowledge and information very easily. Just because you're well educated does not mean you're knowledgeable. How much of what you can learn you can actually implement and use, or how much of that's actually useful in the real world. It's actually very different. So we can't have the same approach as our parents did or the previous generations did.
But I think this is where I think we kind of changing the barrier, and we kind of adopting the new culture. Like this is the podcast. You see, me coming out of from nowhere. Like I was telling my friend. So I was born. When I was going in Nepal, we will gather up the wood and get a fire, and that's how we used to cook food. If I show that to my daughters, who's born and raised in Hong Kong,
right,
they are like, "What? Is that impossible?"
They wouldn't know how to do it.
Yeah. So, but now we're sitting down and in front of the Mac, and we're talking, having a Starbucks, and talking in the hi-fi headphone and mic. I don't think I ever imagined that we're gonna come into this situation that what we're doing right now. And that's why I use this opportunity to probably I don't want to say that educate. I want because I don't want to go through that the boring way and I want people to get inspired. No, it's not. You don't have to inspire anyone, but I want people to people who actually, like, I get to learn so many things just now with you. Although we've been met so many times, we talk about so many things, but we never had to sit down and talk like, okay, what is the education of how immigrant people can get a more information that we just share, right? What is Ben 1, Ben 2, and this is the thing I want. If someone will listen, and they have some idea, and they can actually go back, and we're not sharing education to kind of to change their life, but I think it's just kind of giving a little bit of information that actually in a fun way, right? In a fun
I guess
way.
it's just sharing what we know. Like
Yeah, experience.
I don't think I don't think like any one of us are experts in everything in life.
Yeah,
For example, you know a lot of things that I would know nothing about.
yeah,
You know, I might know some things that you don't know about.
yeah,
I think it's almost like you mentioned you and your daughter, right? You know how to build fires, chop wood,
Yeah.
cook food on the fire, but your daughter would know about access to the internet, all about band one,
Yeah.
band two. So she is supplementing you with that information, while you can teach her about these hands-on experiences that you have had. So everyone knows different things because we had different experiences in life. So it's not about I'm better than you or I'm inspiring you. It's just again exposure to how different people live their lives and how different people have experienced different things in life, right? It's just sharing. It's just seeing
Yeah.
other people's stories.
seeing other people's stories and actually to 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 gain something if we can gain something out of it. Otherwise, it just it's a talk. Is we just having conversation and having a good time probably together.
Yes.
Right, yeah. So so you born in Hong Kong and you live here forever. How often you go back to India?
I guess that was very much determined by my parents, right? I think back when I was much younger, when I was a little kid, we would go back maybe every 2-3 years, 4 years, like once every 2 years, once every 3 years. But obviously, as we got older, with school and work and everything, it becomes less and less frequent. It became like, oh, if there's a special occasion, if someone's getting married, or if there's something happening, then we would go back. But yeah, we still went back every now and then.
When was the last time you were there?
Oh wow, like 5-6 years ago probably. I think the last time I went was my sister's wedding. Again, it was an occasion, a special occasion, so that was the reason I went. But yeah, since then, because I think my grandparents used to live there, so that was the reason why we would visit. Because we have a place there, our grandparents would live there. But I think afterwards, after my sister's wedding, because my grandmother passed away, and my grandfather moved here with us to Hong Kong, because otherwise he was alone.
Yeah.
So we don't have immediate family per se there.
To go back to have reason.
Yeah. So that's why I guess it's been a while since I've been back now.
So, but how is that? What is the cultural shock when you go back to India and when you come back Hong Kong? Do you think, oh, you belongs to, you belongs, or you're here, you're there? Because although you don't born, but you still have that kind of
I think this is a very interesting story because I wouldn't say it's a cultural shock because again, my family is Indians, right? At home, despite us living in Hong Kong, everything's Indian. We speak Punjabi, we speak Hindi, we watch Bollywood films, we listen to Hindi and Punjabi music, there's Indian food in the household. So when I go back, more or less it's the same, so I wouldn't say it's a cultural shock. But there is this thing, where I am from, because when I go back to India, technically I'm ethnically Indian, right? My ethnicity is Indian. But when I go back to India, even people I do not know, when they look at me, they know I'm not from India. They would see me as a foreigner. Like in Hindi they say bahar se aaya hai. Like, oh, you're from outside, you're from a foreign country, right? But when I'm back in Hong Kong, I'm born and raised in Hong Kong. In a way, my culture per se is kind of a mishmash of Hong Kong and Indian culture. So I speak Cantonese, I grew up here, I eat Chinese food, but because again, my skin color, I look Indian, I'm brown, so people wouldn't see me as a Hong Konger or, as a local. So no matter where I went, I was always this foreigner, interestingly enough.
Does it bother you or like you get used to it?
I think maybe as a kid, it used to bother me, because I think back in the 90s, people were not still very accepting of people from other places.
Both sides, in Hong Kong or in India?
In Hong Kong, because I was mostly in Hong Kong, there was a lot of very explicit, overt racism when I was a kid in the 90s, because again, people were not used to it. It wasn't very international yet. So there was some, or just a lack of knowledge of other cultures and people from other countries.
I stopped calling racism. I think it's not about the race.
Okay, it's just a lack of knowledge, isn't it? A lack of understanding.
Lack of understanding, lack of knowledge, and also it's because I don't think describe me racism is, what is racism?
I guess treating you differently based on your race.
Yes, right.
Rather than you
means,
as a person, yeah.
That means that person who is called racist will be treating everyone indifferently, no matter how much money you make, how rich you are, and they will do no, right? So this is the thing. That's why I don't call it racism. People don't look at it that way. I can tell you. You go to the examples the same here when they want to rent these places. If you go as a brown person, let's say, or Nepalese, look, I work in a bar. Can I rent a place? They say no. And we think that's racism. That means that person against race. No. And you go there as a millionaire and say, I want to buy the place. So they will give it to you or not? Or do you say, I wanted to rent the place? But you show them what I do. I work in a bank. They will give it to you. So it's not in my understanding.
I mean, in those cases, I'll say yes, maybe not. But there are instances, right? For example, when I was a kid, a primary school kid or junior secondary kid, like local people would call me names. They would just shout out like racist slurs. I don't want to say them now, but that was a very common thing, and they would shout at you. It was very aggressive, and as a kid, you kind of like got freaked out. Like I was just walking by, and I would just try to leave.
But you know the meaning of them?
Yeah, I knew the meaning of those.
Okay.
But even let's just say going to school, I get ready in the morning, I shower every morning, get ready, I take the lift. All right. The moment I enter the lift, the people in the lift would cover their noses. But as a kid, that always made me think, I literally shower every morning with soap. I wear fresh iron clothes.
You don't even think. You don't have to even
as a kid,
think about it. But yeah,
I'm thinking I literally don't smell. I'm fresh. I'm clean. But people just automatically cover their nose the moment they see you. Not because when you're standing next to them and they smell something. It's just the moment they see, a brown guy, cover their nose. That was a very instinctive reaction people used to have when I was a kid. We used to take, I used to live in Taipo, and I always take bus to go to school in Kuntong, and then rush hour, packed buses, huge lines, everyone's standing, everyone's cramped together. But sometimes the seat next to me would stay empty, right from the first station to the last station. Despite there's no space in the bus, people are standing, every seat is taken except the one next to me. And that always made me feel very self-conscious as a kid, because I was like, why? I don't smell just because I look different. But eventually, I guess you just kind of have to learn to accept it. I was like, fine, more space for me.
Yeah, more space for you, that's what I'm saying.
But at the same time, if it was some other kid or some other person who isn't brown, it wouldn't happen to them. So for me, I saw that as racism, right? Because there could be a random person getting on the lift who smells bad, but no one would cover their nose. Yeah. Because that person is not a foreigner per se or belonging to a different ethnicity.
In that case, that is a kind of. I think that is also when you said it was before.
In the 90s especially, yeah.
Now I think as people accept it, and people are more educated, people travel a lot, people meet new people from different culture, people actually married to different people from different countries, which was back in the days were still not really popular. Rare, like you rarely see people getting married to a different country's person. It's not. I think it's hard to. I can tell you, you're from India. I mean, ethnicity from India. I'm from Nepal. It's still there's a thing that people there is a. Forget about race. There is still within our Nepalese to Nepalese, you can't get married to some of the people. If you go still those villages and
Based on caste.
based on caste as well. So actually it started somewhere.
Right.
It is still there, and it's still there. And and now what we're seeing in Hong Kong, like as a Nepalese, someone getting married to Chinese, someone getting married to British, someone getting married to different culture, someone getting married to African, and so it's just happening now. So we're seeing a lot of cultural changes. So the people now more well known. Right? It's not like because my color is I'm smell, because I'm fucking not taking shower. That's why I'm smelly.
Right. Yeah. Again, right? Access to information, access to knowledge, experiences with different people. People are getting more used to seeing different types of people from all around the world. You have access to internet. You're accessing culture from different parts of the world. You see it, people being represented in popular media, in films, in music, in TV shows. So yeah, people are just more exposed to people from all around the world, and they understand better, and they know that it's not acceptable. I'm not saying there is no more racism anymore. Obviously, there is still, but it's very subtle now. It's not very overt. It's not very explicit.
I think it's subtle. People also know it can put you in a bad situation.
It is illegal as well now. Yeah. So that's a huge difference compared to the 90s. It's illegal now.
It's kind of illegal, and people know, but some people still will do that. Who's old people who lack of education, and I think legal or illegal for them, their mind, they're still living 70s, right?
Yeah.
Some people still exist.
Just stereotypes.
Older generation that they haven't, and also sometimes I think it's our fault also, like as you know, to face racism. Sometimes our stereotype is also very strong. What we do, what we actually, it's very, very, there are a few things, I'm sure you know well, I know what we do, we know it's wrong, but we do it and very proudly say, okay, this is us, this we do. I think also we also have to kind of, like accept the changes and try to do it in a better way that people can accept it, and we don't have to be stereotyped like, okay, there are a few things I want to mention, but I don't think it's as good a good idea. So we do that.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I see where you're coming from, because there are people who kind of fit these stereotypes or reinforce these stereotypes. But
you remember last time we talked about in this coffee shop as well. I think there are some people. There are some people, but their 1% representative doesn't represent us, right? There's one person who's doing exactly the same stereotype that people think about us, and that doesn't represent us.
Right.
Yeah, there are some people. There are definitely some people who actually.
I think it kind of goes both ways, right?
Yeah.
There are certain stereotypes about Chinese people, about Indian people, about Nepalese people, about Americans, about British people. And I'm well aware of these stereotypes. But again, it's a choice. Like, do I kind of buy into these stereotypes and act and treat people based on these stereotypes, or do I treat people based on how they treat me, or based on, because I feel like the way I treat people reflects more on me than it reflects on them. The way I treat you shows what kind of person I am rather than what kind of person you are. But again, I think, yes, it's so much better compared to the 90s, and I don't expect it to magically just go away and for everyone to be accepting, right? It takes generations to have like this complete change. So that's why I feel like, you always hear the news, young people are protesting against racism and all that. It's because for their generation, this is unacceptable, right? For them, the things we experience, they couldn't even imagine, like, oh wow, people can do this. That's horrible. How come that was acceptable? It was just a different time, different generations. So it's going to take a few more generations for it to be a lot more accepting. It's just gonna take time.
It's gonna take time. But is the thing is everywhere. and we have to face it. But how do we take it as a not a negative way, and just let it go? What do you think? Because you know what, I realize, I start realizing like some people are like that, you know, like they're not gonna change it. But do I want them to to add a negativity in my day? Like let's say someone is very racist to me in the morning, or like I don't know, someone behaving very bad, and another person is always like that. So should I go on after him and make my day worse, or ruin my day, or should I just leave it at fuck it, man? I just
I'll say, I mean, it. To be honest, yes, it will annoy you. It's disappointing. It's frustration. It makes you angry. No doubt about it. But what's the point of going after that person, isn't it? Like, in a sense, I'll say that person's not worth your time. Why would you spend your time, your energy, your headspace on a person you don't know, who has no impact on your life, who's not important in your life? Why would you spend it on that person rather than something that's meaningful to you, like your work, your career, your family, your passion? And why would I let someone ruin my day? It's better to just be in control of your emotions. Like, I'm not going to give anyone the power to determine what my day is going to be like. I'm not going to let a random stranger ruin my whole day, ruin my 24 hours. That person's not important. Why would I let him do that?
So
right?
I get it. That's what I think. But I have some of the friends. They think if you don't, teach them a lesson doesn't mean we have to fight, and we should. If you don't educate them, they're gonna repeat the same thing. But why would I go after the person who probably don't even want to understand? Probably don't even want to like educate me. Go, hey, why you telling me this? Why this is wrong? That means as you said, I'm wasting my time.
Right.
I'm wasting my day because it'll be maybe a bit worse over there. They got what? I don't care.
Right.
But if we leave him, as you said, that's what I think also. We just let him go. But the other part of the people, my friend was telling me, this guy not gonna learn the lesson, and he's gonna do the same thing again and again.
But I think you can't really force someone to change, right? Especially a full-grown adult. It's very hard to change someone. I think it's very naive if
do
we
you think so? Yeah, this is the topic. How can we change people who are grown up already?
I think it's very naive if we think like me telling that person this is wrong and they will change. It's very hard. Yes, I'll still that person. What you're doing is wrong. It doesn't make sense. Like, why would you think this way? I would talk, but beyond that, it's not my responsibility. Like, for me, yes, I would teach my students. I would teach the younger generation. I kind of like expose them to more different things, different cultures, different kinds of people, so that the next generation, or there are more people who are more understanding. So if it's just me telling this person that's wrong, they might not change. But if everyone around them, there's more people telling that person, actually this is not right, it might push that person to think about it. If that person's kids, that person's friends, that person's family is telling them it's wrong, it might be better. And if they don't think it's wrong, they don't want to change, again, that's their life. I can't make any decisions for them. I don't know what that person have been through. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to move on because, again, my life's purpose is not to make that person, better.
What if the person is your friend?
Why? You caught me off guard there. I would say I'm very fortunate in the sense that all my friends are very, knowledgeable, intelligent, people. I think sometimes we misinterpret well-educated as intelligent.
Yes, I think that's very important.
Yeah.
It's not. I also recently thinking about it. Well educated doesn't count there.
Because a lot of these negative experiences that I do have with people who might be sexist, who might be racist, they're very, very well educated people. I've seen extremely well-educated people who are in high positions making very inappropriate comments about women. You know, I've seen really, really well-educated people making very, very inappropriate comments about, you know, people from different race, or, you know, kind of perpetuating stereotypes. And, you know, when I was an undergrad student, I wrote this thing, because we used to have writing classes, like creative writing classes, educated illiterates. Because illiterate means you're not educated, but then they're educated illiterates. I think even in Hindi, there's this saying called, I'm not sure if you heard of this, "Padhe likhe gawar."
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're educated, but you're still illiterate. So, you know, education cannot help everyone, you know, sometimes. So that's something we have to accept. So fortunately for my friends, at least,
There's no one.
they're all very intelligent, open-minded, accepting, you know, very practical. Yeah, I'm not sure how would I handle it if it was one of my friends.
Yeah. No, I try to. It's not about. I think it can be all type of situation, right? If someone is, as a friend, someone is making a mistake,
Yeah.
and our job as a friend to tell him that this is wrong, and I think you should not do that. It's not about the race or
Right.
racism or anything. It's like anything, and the person is doing the same thing, and me going there, telling all the friends, I think we need to warn him. This is wrong.
I think sometimes more than warning someone, I think confrontation is not always, or pointing out the issue isn't always helpful. I think sometimes more about having a conversation about why that is problematic, right? So sometimes, you know, I encounter, you know, people who would say, comment on the way a woman is dressed, you know, but instead of saying, you know, hey, you shouldn't say this. If I say that, they were like, oh, I'm just kidding, right? That doesn't really change their mindset. I would actually just start talking about it. I was like, no, actually that looks pretty good. Like, you know, she feels comfortable, so why not? You know, like I sometimes dress like this as well, or I dress very, you know, I dress down or whatever. So I actually start discussing it with that person. So that might not immediately change that person's mind, or they might not stop making inappropriate comments, but at least it makes them think. And if you continue this, you know, I think the people start eventually realize, you know, oh, actually I should stop doing this, or actually this is not okay.
Yeah, I think. But the thing is, this social media also, social media, and sometimes the people you hanging around with also can be changed, can impact in your life being. So I don't understand. People, you know, this is a topic that actually I always want to talk. If I'm doing wrong, and if I got confronted by the person, don't you think I should go back and think about, okay, why I have to have faced these consequences because I was doing wrong? No, I wasn't doing wrong. This is the way I should do. This is right. But there's a whole bunch of people telling you this is wrong, and you have to think about it. Okay, let's leave it out in one time. But it happened to you a second time again, and your friends and your peers and telling you, no, man, this is right. No, lady, this is right. This is the way you should do it. The person who you're talking with, they're wrong. I mean, second time again, the person they're not even connected with the people, because what I one time I wanted to change my friends, very close friends, to they face once and twice, and they think, oh, this is wrong. Why it happened to me? And sometimes I was like, what do you think about it? Don't you think that you're doing something wrong? That's why it's coming to you again and again.
Right.
And no, but they told me I was right. But I was like, dude, this is the social media and those friends. I think it's kind of social media also. And then they come out with the post. Okay.
Right.
Oh, I'm doing this. This is my life. I'm going through. And there's a 50 people that, yeah, you gotta do it, man. This is the way. You know, like follow your instinct. Fuck that, man. they have no idea actually what happened in the whole story. They just read
Right.
the 2 sentence and the boosting, that's the dopamine is going
Yeah.
there and giving you all the positive vibe, the fake positive vibe.
So social media is very controversial in that sense, or just internet in general, because the friends you have on social media, yes, they can be very positive and kind of reinforce what you're saying and support you, but it's very easy to say that on the internet because you're not liable.
Yeah.
It's not your responsibility. You can just say anything without thinking about the consequences, without thinking about the impact. And a lot of people actually do that. And when it comes to right and wrong, it's very subjective. Something that can be right for you can be wrong for me.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is also to do with people you surround yourself with. If all your friends, your family think what you're doing is correct, you wouldn't think what you're doing is wrong. Even if some stranger tells you or someone else tells you, hey, you're doing wrong, but hey, 50 other people tell me it's right.
It's right.
And they're also doing it. So how can it be wrong? If out of 50 people, 49 people say you're right, you'll say you're right as well, right? I think there is, I forgot who it was, I read this quote by some guy on social media as one of those businessmen or motivational speakers, and he was like, show me who your 5 closest friends are, or 5 closest people around you, and I will tell you what your future 5-10 years are going to be
Dan
like.
Pena, I think,
Yeah.
Don Pena, something, this guy named.
Yeah. So, and that's actually very true, isn't it? Because I think about who my closest friends are, like not only for today, but before I used to think about it, how I managed to get through my studies or, get to my career and job. All my closest friends are actually, really interested in, teaching. They're well educated. They love reading. They love to travel. They're very well traveled and well experienced. They have done a lot of different things in life. So I actually look at them and I was like, oh, I can actually do this. This is kind of inspiring. I learned so much from those people. But if I had my 5 closest friends were,
Doing
I
something
don't know,
else.
yeah, if they were, I don't know, let's just say criminals, right? All my 5 of my closest friends are criminals. Or 10 of my closest friends are criminals. I know it's a very extreme example, but I might see this as, oh, I can actually do this. This is easy money. This is a lifestyle, and I might actually adopt that. Because we are very easy to be influenced. Like you said, your children are very influenced by American culture.
Yeah.
It's very easy to get influenced by people around you, especially if there's constant exposure, isn't it? So I felt lucky in the sense that all my friends were really interested in, books, into education, into becoming better people, into traveling around the world and experiencing different things. So I think I kind of took those traits from them. It's almost like when you see different things, or like you're in the F&B business, right? You might go around the world, try different bars, and it's like, oh, that's actually a good idea. I can take that. You go to another place, that's a good idea. I can actually use that as well. So you take good things you learn from different places and kind of make your own thing out of it. I think that's also true for people, isn't it?
That's why, and that's why is so no. So my question is, should the person trust the 50% from their side, or don't listen to the 100% in opposite side, or how do what do you think the person should make a decision on it after making the mistakes, but still.
Oh wow. So you're asking me what should people do after they make mistakes?
Yeah. No. What should those people should we go? So the question is again. So the person doing the same mistakes, but they have a support that telling the person is actually you're doing right. But there's 150 people who's actually against this idea or against this belief that this is wrong. It's totally wrong. And you already got lesson because of that, but you're still not learning the lesson. So, what is it? I want to know, how do we help him to get out from that? There's a 2 answer I got. There's 2 answers.
Okay, so with that,
okay, I give you an example. One told me, fuck it, man. That's
Mhm.
your life.
Mhm.
Move on, enjoy.
Mhm.
But I was like, but that's my friend. You know,
Mhm.
like if I know if my 1 hour of time doesn't bother, if I can spend my 1 hour of time and can change someone's
Mhm.
life, why not?
Mhm.
But you did it already. It didn't work.
Mhm.
That's why I'm asking other people to help.
Right.
So what do you suggest?
I think the thing with mistakes is, I think that's just human nature, isn't it? We tend to repeat our mistakes over and over again, and we will continue, or that person will continue to make the same mistakes until they have truly learned their lessons. Because sometimes it's not about how many people tell you you are right or wrong. You know, sometimes I do certain things which would offend a lot of people, you know, and I know it's better for me that I don't do certain things. But I know what I'm doing is right. So even if 100 people are telling me, God, don't do that, you know, avoid doing that, I'll still do it because I know I'm right. I truly believe that. Same with making mistakes, you know, if I'm making a mistake, okay, I was like, oh, I made a mistake. You know, I'm not going to do that again. Next time I make the same mistake, it's because I didn't learn the lesson. Because if I've already learned the lesson, I wouldn't do the same thing. Now, I'm not saying, in your case, you know, it's really about personality. You know, some people would be like, all right, I tried. All right, I try to help my friend. I tell them why they're wrong. I told them how they can improve. I'm trying to, you know, make them a better person. You know, I did it once. All right, that person didn't listen. There's not much else I can do. I tried. But for some people, it would be like, you know, no, this friend matters to me a lot. All right, I'm gonna go out on my way, try different methods to help them. All right. So it's really about personality. Like maybe your personality is like you really truly care about this friend and you really want the better for them. So you might just keep on trying. And you might have to just try until they learn. All right. Or maybe it'll never happen. You never know.
So
Right?
yeah, probably we give it a try and find out. But what are the biggest mistake that you're not gonna repeat again? Maybe something you can't mention it, no.
Oh wow. I'm very confident I've made a lot of mistakes in my life.
Yeah, that's how I
'Cause-
think we grow. That's how we grow.
Yeah.
I think we should make mistakes.
Because I feel like I'm a better person for it, and I'm more knowledgeable for it because I made so many mistakes in life. Um, I wouldn't say which one's the biggest mistake or the smallest mistake because they're so drastically different.
Yeah.
You know, and it really depends on at what stage of life
The
you are at,
situation,
right?
yeah.
Because, for example, when I was a secondary school student, because we were talking about education earlier, right? I used to be, you know, I'm not trying to praise myself, but I used to be a smart kid. I used to be a hardworking kid. I would just like study, do my assessments, you know, get really good grades, always in the top 3. But, you know, closer to the public examination, I remember I wasn't focusing on my education as much as I should have, you know, and that was why I failed to get into the university the first time.
Oh really?
Yeah, because that's.
But how do you feel? That means they just say, okay, no.
No, I didn't focus on my studies. I didn't revise for the exams, so I didn't do well, and I kind of failed.
So do you have to do exams to get in university?
Yeah, the public examinations. So
And you get failed.
yeah, not all of them, but like biology, chemistry. You know, I was a science student back in the day. So when I was when I was an undergrad student, university student, I would think back like, oh, I wish I worked harder back then. I didn't like, you know, get distracted with other things and socializing and focus more on my studies when it was very important. You know, it would have saved me 2 years. I would have been in university earlier. You know, but by the same time, when I think about it, if I had gone like the perfect route, you know, secondary school, university, immediately masters, immediately start teaching, I feel like a lot of the people I know now, I would have never met. You know, I probably would have never met you. I never would have met all the people I met in F&B. I wouldn't have experienced all those things and learned those lessons, you know, about what is important, how should I approach life. You know, I wouldn't have all these people sharing their experiences with me, you know, about what their life is like. So today I would have been a completely different person. So I am happy with where I am today, with the person I am today, but that is also because of the mistakes I've made in the past.
So, right after you fail the exams for university, how do you feel, and do you like acknowledge that that was your mistake, or you're like, oh shit, maybe the university made a mistake, I did the best,
No,
or you're like, or you knew that, this is
No, I
this is
knew.
me.
I knew I didn't put in the effort. I knew I messed up. And like I said, there was no precedent around me about people going to universities, right? And I didn't know what to do. I was quite lost. And I was like, you know what? I'll just take the exams again. And for like the first 2 or 3 months, right after the exams, I just studied very hard. I just kept studying, and slowly it just died down again because you can't do that continuously by yourself independently for a whole year. And then there was this pressure, like your parents start talking about, because it's a gap year, I'm studying myself, like, oh, maybe you should start working. Like, forget you failed, just start working, right? So that was a lot of pressure in a way. But at the same time, I learned a lot from that as well. I mean, I'm not saying I don't regret it. Yes, I should be hardworking and all that, but during that period, I would say, maybe I don't regret it, but it was a lesson I learned the hard way.
So, and then what holds you for the master degree when you're working in Zuma? So what was that year why you stopped?
You mean why I stopped working in Zuma?
No, why you stopped going to college and working?
Oh, because I was just saving up for postgraduate degree, because postgraduate degrees are not cheap, right?
Oh, that's why you were saving it. You were saving it.
So after I graduated from undergrad, I worked for a year to save up enough money so I can, because for undergraduate degree, I can work and study at the same time, and each semester I would save up enough. And I also picked up student loan actually during that period.
Yeah. So how does the student loan work?
So student loan, there are like different kinds. So you have
Who gives student loan in Hong Kong?
The government.
The banks?
No, I think you apply for the government.
You apply
like
for the
financial assistance, I think. And there are these like tested loans and non-tested loans. So tested loan is they check your family background.
Yeah.
So if they feel like, okay, your family is kind of like not earning enough, slightly underprivileged, then they do a whole background check and then they give you a loan. Non-tested is they don't check anything, you just apply for it, and then you get it. But I think you also have to pay interest and everything. So once you graduate, once you finish your studies, that's when you start paying back, not when you're studying. And you pay back monthly.
So anyone can apply?
Yeah, any students can apply.
After secondary?
I think so, because I think the secondary schools have financial assistance for students who can't really pay for can't pay for secondary school, like the school fees and everything.
But in Hong Kong it's very cheap, no? The secondary school, if you're not in international elite school.
But I think there are still kind of like slightly underprivileged students, so they have to apply for financial assistance. For textbooks, for travel, for school fees, and all those kind of things. So I think students who get financial assistance don't have to pay the school fees, or they get a little money to help pay for the textbooks and traveling as well. Yeah.
All right, man. So what is I want to ask you the last question actually. It's not so what are you seeing yourself in 10 years on? What do you have? What are you planning to do?
Oh, this is a tough question to answer because this is something I've been discussing with my friends as
Just
well.
now, really?
No. Over the past year or so, because all the goals that I set as when I was a secondary school student, I want to be a teacher.
You're a teacher.
Eventually, I want to be a lecturer. I want to do this. I want to do that. I feel like I've achieved all those things already, a lot sooner than I thought I would.
So what's next?
That's a good question. I'll probably continue to teach at a university level. But other than that, I'm not sure. I'm exploring the possibilities of going out of Hong Kong as well and teaching somewhere else. Not just to get out of Hong Kong, but I feel like
Just to get more experience?
Yeah, I see a lot of my peers, like a lot of the other lecturers and professors, before they came to Hong Kong, a lot of them have experiences in many different countries.
Yeah.
Like they've taught in UK, they've taught in Singapore, they've taught in Dubai, And you hear all these stories about, the differences in teaching styles and education systems around the world. It's very eye-opening. So I was wondering, maybe thinking about the possibility of maybe try exploring that as well.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a good experience. Because I feel like the world's really big, and a lot of the times we end up spending most of our lives in the same place. Which I feel like is a bit of a pity, because I feel like there's just so much out there that we never see or experience.
Now is the time to travel. I mean, not now.
Not now. With COVID, it's definitely a lot harder. Things we took for granted are like traveling. Before you could just, if I want to fly, I can just book a flight immediately.
Yeah. Like
right now, I can book a flight and fly 3 hours later.
Yeah. To go Philippines or
But now it's not possible anymore. So yeah, fingers crossed. I'm not quite sure what I want to do in the next 10 years, but I'll probably still be teaching. Hopefully, have a little more experience in different things.
Yeah, man. I think I wanted to see you always giving the positive vibe and inspiring people like us, or maybe younger generation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not that young. I'm 21, so.
I mean, you're doing the same. You're inspiring probably a lot more people than I am.
I mean, we just here doing the stuff that we love.
Mm-hmm.
I think same as teaching you love. I love bartending. I love talking to people. So this is what we're doing, and hope we will continue doing the same thing. And yeah, if anyone wants to get inspired, anyone gets to learn something, they know where to find me. And if they want to find you, they find me, I'll find you.
Both Gagans are available.
Thank you, man. Thank you for
thank you for having
coming
me.
by and coming to this small studio and doing this to us.
It's my pleasure. Totally my pleasure.
It's great talk, man. Thank you.
All right, cheers, mate.
And cut.